Hello, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. So France have done it. The first time in their history that they have gone a full calendar year unbeaten. They've won every single one of their games. 13 wins in a row, which is the most ever by a French men's national team. Unbelievable stuff. They've just beaten Japan. I've just been doing commentary on the game. Enjoyed it. Not the best of games, but in terms of France, historic moment for them. I'm going to get into that. I'm going to get into should Romain Ntamack or Matthieu Jalibert be the fly half for France, as well as loads of other talking points. If you are new here, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, and drop a comment down below. What did you make of France's victory over Japan? And what do you make of France, the run of form they're on, heading in to the Six Nations and the World Cup next year as well? Loads to get into. Let's do it. So France's last defeat was now 489 days ago. It was their test series against Australia down under, where they ended up losing the series. They changed their team quite a lot for that as well. It was like that series where Jaminet came through. So it's a long time since France have lost a game. 2022 has been absolutely brilliant for them. They've played some brilliant rugby. If you then also want to throw in last autumn in 2021 as well, where they beat New Zealand at home, I mean, they've had a brilliant 12 months. They've beaten the All Blacks, they've beaten Ireland at home, they've beaten England at home, they've beaten South Africa, they've beaten Australia. All of what you would say the top teams in the world have come up against this French team and have come up short. They are the real deal. They are building nicely into the World Cup on home soil next year. I think for a lot of people, they will be the favourites, partly because I think the home advantage, they're a really good side. Couple it with the home advantage, then that's a very powerful thing. And you also talk about the French support. This was a French support that over the years could quite quickly turn on their team. They're not anymore. I think it's a French public that I get the impression are completely behind this team. You look at the way this autumn they've travelled around France. Their first game was in Paris, and that was a brilliant atmosphere. They then went to Marseille in that game against South Africa. Again, a brilliant atmosphere. They went to Toulouse today around a Sunday lunchtime kind of kickoff, and again, it's packed out. It goes into how good club rugby is in France. It feeds into the international team. The support for that team is huge at the moment, and I think will have a big impact when it comes to the World Cup. So France, congratulations to them. 13 in a row, 2022, seeing off everyone that has come before them, winning all of their games. It is seriously impressive. But there are also, I think, still improvements for France. Let's think of this autumn, for example. You could argue that Australia outplayed them at the Stade de France, certainly played better than them for certain parts of the game. It was a Damien Penaud moment of magic, that try towards the end that gave France the victory. You then again got the match against South Africa, which was a real arm wrestle. Some decisions that perhaps went France's way. Falatea's try, which was it double movement or not, which they didn't particularly look at, but they were happy with. Again, moments like that, if it goes another way, it could be a defeat. And even against Japan today, the scoreline ended up being fairly comfortable, 35-17, but Japan got themselves back into the game, and France probably weren't necessarily at their best, but they still put 35 points on the board and they got the job done. So I think this is a French team that are playing incredibly well, but they also have a lot more to come. They have more growth. The likes of Paul Willemse, I think, will come back into the team as well, into that second row, add a little bit more muscle. But overall, obviously, they're in a brilliant place. I just think they actually can get even better. In terms of selection, the big selection question marks in France is Matthieu Jalibert or Romain Ntamack. Ntamack has started throughout this autumn, despite not really playing much rugby at all before it. Fabien Galthié backed his man. Ntamack has been the fly half regularly since Galthié took charge, since the 2019 World Cup. The large amount of success that this French team has had Ntamack at 10. But is it now time for a change? Because Matthieu Jalibert has come off the bench throughout the autumn and been absolutely sensational. And it was the same again today in the Japan game. He came in, he looked so calm and composed, chips over the top, collecting kicks. I mean, he set up 2 tries for France. And he's just one of those guys that he looks like he has loads of time on the ball, which is a massive compliment to someone playing fly half at international level, because we know how quickly they're having to make decisions, how quickly they're having to scan the field and decide what to do. But Jalibert today came on and he'd put a chip over the top, he'd collect it, he'd do a little pop pass to Gregory Audry. It all looked so easy. So I think there is a genuine argument that could be made that he should be the man lining up for France. It'll be really interesting to see what they do come the Six Nations. Obviously, Untermack has time now in the top 14 to try and find his form, but he hasn't been on top form, and Jalabert has been absolutely sensational. So I think that is definitely something to keep an eye on. I also wanted to mention Julien Marchand. I think he got man of the match today. I believe I saw him doing the interviews for television afterwards. The hooker, I mean, is he the best hooker in the world at the moment? Because he was outrageously good today, I thought. In terms of ball in hand, a really explosive carrier. He gets so low to the ground, he's really hard to stop. So he's great at carrying in those tight enclosed channels. And then he's really strong over the ball at the breakdown in defence as well. He just seems to me to be one of those guys that all of a sudden he's incredibly effective both sides of the ball. And when you think about the best hookers in the world, I don't think he necessarily gets thrown into the conversation quite as much, and I think maybe now is his time. I thought he was really, really good today, really, really good this autumn, and is one to keep an eye on, a key player for France. I thought he was excellent today. He's almost like having another back row player on the pitch, I think, with Marchand. You look at Audry and Jelonch and Olivon, and Marchand's almost another one of those in that he can do damage at the breakdown. He's going to carry an awful lot as well. He'll get through a lot of work. As I say, I was really, really impressed by him. Also, just finally, I'll finish off talking about Japan. Not the autumn they necessarily would have wanted. They've had 3 defeats to the All Blacks, to England, and now to France as well. But they pushed the All Blacks close. That was a tight game. They pushed France close in a way. The scoreboard in the end wasn't that impressive in terms of the result here. But there was a period in the game where Japan scored a try straight after half-time, and the next score was then going to be crucial, because if Japan had got it, they'd have been back in touching distance, and all of a sudden things might have got a little bit nervy. It might have asked some awkward questions of that French team. As it was France that got the next try. They kept a fairly comfortable lead, and they were able, from that point, to see out the game. But I think the point with Japan is they are building. They pushed the All Blacks. Almost the performance at Twickenham is the outlier. The fact that they were dispatched by England, credit to England to a degree, who I haven't been particularly impressed with, to be fair. But I think that was almost a bit of an anomaly from a Japanese point of view. It was, probably good for England. But anyway, I think Japan are building towards the World Cup. I think they'll be better at the World Cup. I don't necessarily think we're going to see them pull up trees like they did in 2019, because they don't have the momentum of being at home and having a home World Cup. But I think overall Japan are building nicely. They will want to turn some of those results around. But I was pretty impressed with them today, because they weren't that great in the first half, and then they were able to show something in the second half. I think their fullback had a torrid day. Yamanaka was responsible for at least a couple of the tries, with some sloppy mistakes towards the end. He'll come back better. Japan will come back better. And overall, this leaves international rugby in a really, really strong place, I think. You look at Georgia beating Wales. You look at Japan, who I think will improve. A lot of sides that are inconsistent. You don't know who's going to beat who. It's France and Ireland that are out in front at the moment. And the battle below that is absolutely fascinating. This autumn has been excellent so far. The final week next week with Wales, Australia, and also England against South Africa. Looking forward to that. I'm going to be at Twickenham pitch side. This is my thoughts on France against Japan. France have gone unbeaten. So drop a comment down below. Let me know what you think about France, particularly heading into the World Cup and the Six Nations next year. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Leave a like on the video, and I'll see you in the next one.